My beloved child, when you stand before what seems like an impenetrable wall, a wall built from years of accumulated wounds, the quiet weight of unspoken fears, and the long drawn-out hesitations cloaked in silence, I have seen what the lost world has not the rising of a soul ignited with light. This is not a random moment. It is a moment of destiny. I have witnessed you no longer turning away as in times past, no longer retreating like one who fears the night. Instead, you have chosen to step forward, though your legs tremble and your heart beats with intensity. You are not merely crossing over stone and cold winds, you are walking through the very limits of yourself, through unhealed wounds, through the voice of doubt that once kept you locked inside the invisible cage of insecurity and fear. Do you know the moment you decided not to run anymore was the very moment heaven bent low in silence? For it was not merely an act of courage, it was a spiritual declaration, a holy roar rising from the earth and echoing into my dwelling place. You caused angels to pause. You shattered chains that seemed to have bound you all your life. In that moment, your soul was named in the courts of heaven as one called one who has chosen to live no longer bound by the paralysis of the past, but by my promise for the future. You are not simply reaching for a goal or an earthly achievement. You are being transformed, not from the outside, but from the very core of your being. I see you becoming someone whom darkness can no longer intimidate a soul. Hell cannot overpower a person heaven has been awaiting since the dawn of creation. Hell trembles not because you shout, but because you keep walking in silence. Darkness panics, not at a blazing light, but at a small flame that refuses to go out in the wind and storm. And that very flame, my child, will become the torch that lights the way for the generations to come. You have broken the cycle of hesitation. You have stopped asking the old questions. Am I strong enough? Will anyone stand with me? You have stopped waiting for permission from those who never understood the quiet battles you have been fighting within. Instead, you have begun to walk as one who knows that I, the Creator of all, have laid my hand upon you, called your name above the noise of millions, and given you a power that no force on earth can take away. And now, as you walk not because of fear of what is behind you, but out of a deep longing for what lies ahead, I want you to know you are on the right path. It is not that you no longer feel pain. It is not that you never face moments of doubt. But even in the midst of those swirling emotions, you choose faithfulness, and that moves the heart of heaven. I do not seek perfect souls, I seek faithful hearts, and in you I have found one. You are not only making a way for yourself, you are breaking down invisible walls that have held your family line, your descendants, and even those you have never met in the shadowy grip of doubt and limitation. What you are breaking today will become the promised land for others to enter tomorrow without paying the painful price you once did. You are the forerunner, the pioneer, and that is never easy. But you have chosen the harder path. You have chosen faithfulness. I know there have been nights when you lay awake, silent tears falling where no one could see. The questions you never dared to speak aloud, I have heard them all, and I have not ignored them. I have used those very tears to water the seeds of life for your future. I have used that very pain to shape your character. Your scars do not make you weaker. They are the medals of silent victories, proof that you faced the abyss and did not fall. My dear one, what is being formed in you is greater than anything you have ever dreamed. Do not look back anymore. What is behind you, whether painful or glorious, was only preparation. You are stepping into a new era where every step you take will leave traces of life, restoration, and holiness. Not because you are great, but because you have surrendered to the one who is great. Not because you have all the answers, but because you trust me enough to keep moving, even when you cannot see the whole way ahead. Beloved child, when you chose to no longer live in your old form, the form of silent endurance, quiet resignation, and the years of merely bowing your head to survive, you did what not everyone has the courage to do. You cast off the worn-out garment the world once placed upon you to put on the true form I shaped for you from the very beginning. This was not just a decision, it was a resurrection. You stepped out of the dark cocoon of doubt, fear, and false identity to live in the true identity I engraved into your soul before you even knew my name. You are no longer the one merely struggling through each day, waiting for someone else to rescue you. No, you have resolutely chosen to rise, and in that rising, another version of you, stronger, clearer, and more radiant, has emerged from the ruins. You no longer see yourself as someone once rejected, once wounded, once misunderstood. Now you know that those things do not define you. Rather, your response in the midst of them is the true evidence of your nature, not as a defeated one, but as one refined by the Holy Spirit to overcome. You have crossed the worn boundaries of limited thinking, not merely through action, but through a spiritual resolve. You did not simply walk through a door. You accomplished what generations before you may have stopped short of. Out of fear, you shattered the invisible chains that had bound you in cycles of pain and hesitation. These bindings were not made of visible iron and steel, but of words that denied you, memories that silenced you, experiences that taught you you are not enough. Yet as you walked forward, I saw each link break. You did not merely pass through, you were set free. The realm of darkness has noticed. They tremble not because of your shout or your physical strength, but because of the quiet yet unyielding shift within your spirit. There are things in the unseen realm that recognize change before you can even name it yourself. For light does not need to call for attention, it simply needs to be present. And when the light within you began to shine again after years of being concealed, those that dwell in the shadows knew their time was over. They panic because they understand that a person who has known suffering yet still chooses to rise is someone they no longer have power over. My child, understand that true victory does not lie in applause or in the spotlight. It lies in the quiet choices you make when no one is watching. It lies in the moment you choose not to turn back to old ways even when you cannot see what lies ahead. It lies in forgiving not because the other deserves it, but because you refuse to carry those chains any longer. You are no longer living as a victim of circumstance, but as one who knows that every trial is material I use to build something greater within you. The identity of a victor is not something you must search for outside yourself. It has always been there, merely veiled by the dust of experiences, of judgments, and of the silence of those who should have spoken in your defense. But today I see you have wiped that mirror clean. You are beginning to see yourself through my eyes, and in those eyes you are anything but ordinary. You are my chosen one. Marked with resilience, you may be struck down but not destroyed, isolated but never alone, for I am always there. In your transformation, the spiritual realm must take note. What has happened within you is not mere maturity. It is a sacred uprising where a child of light says farewell to the ghosts of the past and begins to walk in the authority granted from heaven. Beloved, keep moving forward. Do not look back in regret. Do not doubt what I am doing. Even if you cannot yet see the full picture, I promise you, your steps now are not merely a personal journey. They are waves breaking open a path for other souls, still struggling in the storm. I have placed a mission upon you, not to burden you, but to release, not to prove, but to shine. And when you choose to no longer live as one chased by the past, but as one called to the future, you change everything. Remember this: the silence of darkness is not peace. It is the storm waiting for someone brave enough to light the torch. And today you are that torch. Not because you are perfect, but because you did not give up. Not because you have all the answers, but because you have surrendered enough to say, though I do not see the road ahead, I will not turn back. I am walking with you. And all of heaven is moving in step with the courage you have just chosen. Do not stop, for it is here that the real story truly begins. My child, there is a profound work unfolding within you, even before you can name it. It is a transformation that does not announce itself with noise, yet it is as powerful as the wind sweeping across a barren desert, awakening life in places where only ashes seem to remain. Do you sense it? That gentleness in your soul, that stillness in the long night, it is no accident, nor is it because the circumstances around you have suddenly become easier. It is because in the deepest place of your spirit, you have crossed an invisible yet powerful threshold. Something eternal has taken place, and all of heaven has taken note. You have broken free from your former identity, the shadow that others once projected onto you, the image shaped by their limited vision and past perceptions. No longer do you accept the labels they once placed upon you: weak, lacking, inadequate, unseen. Those very labels had kept your feet wandering in the wilderness of doubt, causing you to question yourself, your calling, and at times even my voice. But now those chains have been removed. You have chosen to believe what I say about you, not merely with your lips, but with your life, not with a fleeting emotion, but with a committed surrender that does not look back. When you crossed that threshold, a spiritual shift occurred, not only within you, but in the unseen realm. Nothing in this world can return to the way it was. The door has opened, you have stepped through, and you no longer belong to the old place. Just as Israel could not return to slavery in Egypt, not only because they did not want to, but because they had been transformed at their core, so too you have been changed. The old chains have been shattered by a divine truth. You are no longer the product of your circumstances. You are the living embodiment of my spoken word. That is why your mind feels lighter now. For when you no longer strain to become what others expect, you are finally free to become what I created you to be. That is why the night no longer feels as heavy, because you are no longer torn between my will and your own. You have chosen surrender, and in that surrender you have found true freedom. Only when you stop trying to prove something to the world can you hear clearly my affirmation: you are mine, I love you, and I have chosen you. Your steps are steady now, not because every obstacle has disappeared, but because your inner being is unshaken. Your new identity is not earned by merit or achievement. It is given from the courts of heaven, where I called you by name among the multitude, where your destiny was written in the blood of the Lamb and not in the ink of mortal hands. Nothing I have spoken over you is ever by chance, and when you courageously agree with that identity, all of heaven aligns to uphold you. My child, I know you have grown weary from trying to force your way into being accepted. There were days when you lived as though one more mistake would mean abandonment, as though one more stumble would erase your name. But today I speak to you with the full love of your Creator. You no longer have to fight to have worth. You have worth because I have chosen you. No one can diminish what I have established. No voice, not even the one inside your own mind, can revoke the right of sonship given to you by grace. And so, from this moment, nothing will be as it was before. Not because life will suddenly be free of trials, but because you have changed. Your perspective has shifted. The voice within you has been renewed. Your spiritual posture no longer bows in shame, but stands tall in conviction. You now know where you belong. And one who knows their true identity cannot be easily shaken by criticism or rejection from without. You no longer live to please people, you live to please the one who spoke life into the very core of your being. Beloved, do not be surprised if certain old things begin to fall away from your life. Relationships that once existed only through compromise will begin to fade. Habits that kept you bound in a false sense of safety will lose their appeal. You are stepping into a new land, not merely in geography, but in spirit. And this new land requires you to travel light, without the burdens of an old identity, without the memories of rejection. Carry only faith, obedience, and the promise I have planted deep within your heart. I rejoice that you have truly stepped into what I have always seen in you. No more hiding, no more denying, no more shrinking back into the shadows. You have come out of your shelter to live openly, as one who carries the light. And from that very moment, everything began to change, not from the outside, but from within. Not because of your circumstances, but because of the person you have become: an awakened soul, a steadfast heart, a warrior, clothed in the armor of light. You need not do anything more to be worthy of this change. You only need to keep living with gratitude, with an open spirit, and with a heart that never ceases to listen to my voice. For I am not only the one who began this good work in you, I will also be the one to complete it. And with each step you take, I will reveal my glory, not with a thunderous roar, but with a deep peace, with a transformed life, and with small yet undeniable miracles. My beloved, I have watched you in moments when you never imagined anyone was looking. I was present in the hours when your soul was torn by wounds from the past, from rejection, from failures no one knew about. I was silently there when you asked, "Am I enough? Can I really keep going? Do I truly carry any worth in this vast world?" I saw you forcing a smile while inside you raged a wordless storm. I heard your prayers when you no longer had the strength to form a sentence, when your tears became the desperate language of a heart longing for healing. Nothing you have endured has been meaningless. Not a single tear has fallen without me gathering it. Not a single time you chose to rise has gone unnoticed in heaven. You thought you were merely trying to survive, but in truth you were stirring the spiritual realm. You thought your stumbling was weakness, but your relentless choice to rise again and again has been proof of a strength forged in fire, tempered in darkness, and sanctified by me. You have not only overcome a hard situation, you have broken through a chain of patterns, a worn shell that has covered your family for generations. You have silenced the whisper that has haunted many souls in your lineage. You will never change. You were born to repeat what has always been. Do you see it? What you are doing is not only freeing yourself, you are redrawing the map of a family line, opening a new path for those who will come after you. The enemy wants you to believe that your greatest battle is with the circumstances around you. But the truth is, the deepest battle has always been in the mind, where you must choose each day to believe in life instead of surrendering to the quiet death of hope. You have wrestled not only with pain, but with the echoes of childhood, with the sting of mockery, with the absence of love, with the wounds of abandonment. These did not merely try to bring you down, they sought to erase the very idea that you are worthy to live with purpose, to be loved without condition, to walk in abundance rather than lack. Yet you did not give up. You refused to let old wounds dictate your future. You refused to let the past write the final chapter of your story. Every time you chose to rise, though no one clapped, though no one saw you, were rewriting your destiny with the pen of faithfulness and resilience. You did not wait until you were perfect to begin. You stepped forward while still trembling, and that makes all of heaven stand in awe, for I do not seek flawless souls. I seek hearts that will not bow to defeat. Do you know that it is in the moments you think yourself weakest that I see you strongest, when you say, "I'm not sure I can go on," and yet you take another step? That is when heaven calls your name as a victor. I do not measure you by the number of times you fall, but by the courage you show each time you rise. I do not see you as one who once failed, but as one who is being renewed. And every time you silently forgive, every time you choose faith over bitterness, every time you say, "Yes, Lord," though your heart bleeds, these are offerings more pleasing to me than any other sacrifice. You did not let go even when everything seemed meaningless. You did not close your ears to my call, even when it beckoned you into the unknown, and that, my child, is the greatest victory. Not a victory in the eyes of the world, but a victory in the soul. A triumph that silences hell, drives back the darkness, and makes room for the light to rise. Do not think that just because you have not yet seen the results, what you are doing is in vain. Some miracles begin like seeds buried deep in the soil, unseen, untouched, yet I see them sprouting. And your faith, though as small as a mustard seed, is enough to move mountains. It is your unseen perseverance that is paving the way for a transformation your household and your generation will inherit. So never underestimate your own worth. Never assume that what you do is insignificant. In my eyes, every step you take is a song echoing through the desert, a drumbeat resounding into a slumbering world. You are awakening life not only within yourself, but also in those who thought hope was lost forever. I am proud of you not because you are perfect, but because you are faithful. I rejoice because you did not turn away, because you chose to believe when everything around you told you to stop. And that very thing, steadfastness in the storm, obedience in the fog, is proof that you are living in the calling I appointed for you from your very first breath. My child, what you cannot see with your natural eyes, I still see with my eternal gaze. Every step you think is merely continuing is in fact sending tremors through the unseen realm. Movements are happening in the air, in the spiritual realm, in the deepest layers of the soul, things no one on earth can measure. Every seemingly quiet step you take is a vibration in the spiritual universe. It makes the heavens applaud, and it makes the darkness tremble. Not because you shout loudly, not because you wield outward power, but because you dared to rise and walk in resolute trust and unshakable faith, even when your heart is still bleeding and your legs are trembling. You do not realize that the forces which once held you captive in fear, shame, and lies are now beginning to retreat. They are afraid not because you have become great in the eyes of man, but because you have chosen to believe my word, even when every circumstance screams the opposite. Your faith, which the world sees as weakness, is in fact the most powerful weapon against the darkness. Your unseen faithfulness is the storm that sweeps away the chains that bound generations before you. I have never overlooked a single moment of your pain. Not one sigh of yours has escaped my hearing. I sat there in that room where you could not even pray a word when you felt yourself breaking into pieces. I was with you when the sunlight outside was blazing, but inside you was the thick darkness of weariness and loneliness. I did not turn away, my child. On the contrary, I gathered every tear, every sob, every quiet confusion to forge something greater than you can comprehend right now. Every pain you have endured, whether from rejection, loss, or prolonged silence, I have transformed into a holy seed. And those seeds, my child, are being sown into the soil of the future. I do not leave your pain lying on the surface. I bury it deep in the ground, tending it like a faithful farmer watching over his field. I water it with grace. I shine on it with hope. And at the appointed time, the very things that once brought you to tears will blossom into flowers of life, flowers of steadfastness, of purpose, of healing, not only for you, but for those you will meet in the days to come. There are mornings, I know, when you wake up empty with no reason to keep going. You look around and everything seems to be falling apart. Life no longer feels like a gift, but like a burden. I see it all. And it is in those mornings that I draw closest to you. I do not pound on the door. I do not demand that you be strong or sing loudly. I simply come softly, as the breath of dawn, as sunlight piercing through the clouds. I sit beside you, not to rebuke you, but to uphold you. I whisper, you have not reached the end. Do not conclude the story while I am still writing it. And when you think you are no longer whole, when your soul feels as if it is about to shatter into countless pieces, that is precisely when my angels spread their covering over your life. Not so you may see them with human eyes, but to shield you in the unseen battle you are too weary to keep fighting. There are things you cannot see yet. That does not mean they are not real. The very moment you feel most alone is often when the host of angels surrounds you the most, because you are carrying a portion of the mission I have given you, and not one part of that mission will be abandoned. I know you have wanted to surrender. I know there have been times you wished to let go, not because you do not love me, but because you have grown so very tired, yet you did not surrender. And that alone shakes the very foundations of hell. For there is a faithful child, one who has been broken, forgotten, afraid, who still dares to say, "I still believe." And that declaration, even whispered, resounds powerfully before my throne. You do not need to be the strongest, the most prominent, or the most skilled. You only need to keep going one step, even one breath, as long as it is toward the light. For in my kingdom, victory does not always come from a loud shout, but from steadfast faithfulness. No one applauds you in the moments when you must stand back up alone, but I do. Heaven does. And that is worth more than all the applause of men. My child, remember this. The steps you take today that seem meaningless are becoming the foundation for something eternal. Every time you choose to continue, I am placing another stone on the path toward your true destiny. You are not living just for the present. You are living to open the door to a glorious future, one in which you will understand why I allowed you to walk through such dark days. I am at work, my child, and do not think that my silence means my absence. This is when I am preparing something deeper, stronger, more eternal, not only to bless you, but to make you a blessing to others. For I am not only rescuing you from the darkness, I am making you into a lamp set upon a stand, giving light to many. My beloved, do not stop. Even if the road ahead is still unclear, even if weariness presses into every nerve and the wounds within you have not yet closed, I earnestly call you, keep walking with me. This journey does not end here. This is only the opening chapter, the first page of a radiant story, where beauty will be born from what you once thought was broken ashes and failure. I have seen the moments when darkness seemed ready to swallow your soul whole, when you collapsed, not from lack of courage, but from sheer exhaustion to keep standing. When the dark whispers in your mind kept sowing lies, there is no way out, everything you do is meaningless. No one truly cares for you. Those voices, though small, echoed together like waves crashing, drowning out the last glimmer of light. The air around you felt heavy with despair. Pressure closed in like walls, narrowing, blurring the lines between day and night, hope and confusion, light and shadow. And then it was as if everything around you delivered the same cruel verdict: it's all over. The world told you that you are too late, too small, too inadequate to change anything. The enemy of your soul whispered that you should quit, that surrender would be far easier than silently enduring. Everything seemed to conspire to break you. But my child, in the midst of that deafening chaos, one thing remained, neither shouting nor forcing nor demanding to be heard. A whisper, soft as the morning breeze, yet solid as a rock. A voice not born from your mind, but from a place deeper still, where no lie could ever reach. It was I, the one dwelling within you, gently reminding you, surrender is not the only way. Keep going, for I am here. That voice did not promise you a smooth road, but it bore the unshakable witness that you are not alone, that in the storm I still hold your hand, that when the whole world turns away I remain before you, eyes never blinking, that when all hope shatters like glass, I am the one who gathers each fragment to craft something new, not a temporary patch, but an entirely new creation built upon the foundation of love, faithfulness, and a promise that cannot be destroyed. Remember, the deepest beauty does not spring from abundance and ease, but from ashes, from the furnace, from the place where you thought you had lost everything. The most exquisite flowers often bloom from barren ground. The greatest symphonies are often composed in the coldest winters of the soul. In the same way, it is out of those moments when you feel nothing but emptiness that I am preparing to plant within you something no one can ever take away. I am not disappointed when I see you weak. On the contrary, it is in that very weakness that my power is made perfect. I do not seek someone who never falters, but one who turns their eyes back to me each time doubt comes. I do not require a warrior without fear, but one who, though afraid, still refuses to let go of my hand, and that is you. You think your tears are signs of failure, but to me they are holy water streams that nourish the seeds of a new harvest. Those tears have not been in vain. They have watered the ground you will walk on in the days to come, a future unlike anything you have ever imagined. Not merely a place of safety, but a place where you will walk in authority and true freedom and in a fully restored identity. So do not stop, my child. I do not require you to understand everything. I only invite you to trust that I understand. And in that trust you will see each small step you take being used to bend what seemed unchangeable, to move the mountains you thought could never be moved. You do not need your own strength, you need surrender. And when you surrender to me, I will take you farther than you ever dared to dream. Remember what you have already overcome. Look back at the depths I have lifted you from. If I was with you, then do you think I would leave you now? If I kept you when you did not even know to call on me, would I turn away now when you call my name through tears? No, my child, I do not change. My love does not fade. My word is never withdrawn. Every promise I have spoken I will fulfill. Everything I have begun in you, I will complete. So keep walking with me. You do not need to run, just walk. Every faithful step brings you closer to the unveiling of my glory in your life. I do not see you through the lens of your circumstances, but through the potential I planted in you since the beginning of time. And no matter how the world may measure you, I still call you my beloved, my chosen one, the one upon whom my hand rests and will never let go. My child, a new season is forming, not just out there but within you. A season where darkness will no longer dictate your emotions. A season where my voice will resound louder than the whispers of fear. A season where every old pain will become the key to open the door to things newer, deeper, and eternal. My dear one, I have seen you not when you stood on the highest peak, not when you were surrounded by applause and bright lights, but when you walked quietly in the shadows, unseen and unrecognized. That was when your soul was most bewildered, and yet your faith shone brightest in my eyes. While many around you lift their faces to the sky, waiting for spectacular signs, vivid dreams, or obvious miracles to believe, I am at work. You have chosen a different road, a quieter one. You do not chase fleeting flashes of light, nor do you seek validation from the world. Instead, you turn inward. You listen for the faintest whisper, the gentle voice that rises above the noise of the crowd that is me. In the silence of your inner being, where no one else can intrude, you have felt my presence. Not in loud displays or in overwhelming mystical experiences, but in the stillness of the spirit, where your soul seemed to have only one choice, either to give up or to believe. And you chose the latter. You did not see the path. You did not hear the applause. Yet you reached out and took hold of me. It was in that very moment that something profound took place. Not an explosion in the physical world, but a spiritual tremor, a shift in the unseen realm where the heavens themselves shook at a decision so small yet so powerful. For when a soul chooses to believe in the dark, to hold on to hope, when all seems lost, to keep praying, when the voice of fear screams, it's useless, that is when grace pours down like a waterfall. You turned your back on fear, not with aggression but with steadfast resolve. You rejected the poisonous whispers, the sly suggestions urging you to stop, to close your heart, to abandon hope, to stop dreaming, to cease praying. But you did not yield. You inclined your heart toward the gentle call of faith, a call that does not demand, does not push, does not require you to understand, but simply and tenderly invites, walk on with me. And that choice, not once but many times in the ordinary days, in moments no one else knew about, has created an invisible yet mighty wave. A wave that not only broke the grip of despair over your soul, but is now opening a new chapter, a new door, an entirely different journey for your life. For I do not overlook decisions that seem small. I do not forget the times you said, "I still believe," even with tears still upon your cheeks. My child, I do not wait until you are strong to act. It is in your weakness, in your trembling yet steadfast belief in me, that I work most powerfully. My grace does not arrive like a sudden storm, but like an underground stream, seeping slowly into every dry crevice of your heart, pushing up life from the very place you once lay broken. The most beautiful thing, the thing you never even dreamed of, is quietly growing from that very ground soaked in your tears. You have wept. You have felt you had nothing left to give. Yet you have offered me the most precious gifts: faithfulness in the dark, patience in the face of rejection, gratitude in the midst of lack. And I have received them all. I have not only taken them, but am using them as seeds for a new harvest. A season in which you will no longer live with the mindset of struggling to survive, but will walk in wholeness with the authority and peace that the world cannot give and cannot take away. My beloved, picture what I am doing as a gardener, tending each tender shoot, clearing away weeds, patiently waiting for the rain, steadfastly awaiting the Sunday. This is what I am doing in your heart. I know there are seeds that were once buried under disappointment, but now I am tilling the soil, watering it, bringing in the light so that what was once hidden may rise again. And when it blooms, you will no longer recognize the ground that once made you weep, for it will have become a radiant garden. I know you do not need flowery words. You need the truth. And here is the truth: you did not back down. You chose to love me when you did not feel love. You chose to pray when you had no strength left to form the words. And yes, that is why the darkness cannot win. That is why heaven is moving, arranging, preparing for you a miracle, not to merely compensate for loss, but to bring forth from loss a new glory beyond what you could ever imagine. Walk with me. Do not wait until you understand everything. Do not wait for everything to settle before you dare to believe that I am at work. I am working right in the midst of the chaos. I am building you, even among the broken pieces. And one day you will look back and realize that the most beautiful things did not come from places of peace, but from the battles you once thought you could never survive. You will no longer live in fear of being defeated, because now you know that even if you fall, I will lift you up. And even if you stumble again, I will still be there, waiting not to condemn you, but to embrace you. You do not have to live trying to be worthy of me. You only need to live in the awareness that I have chosen you, loved you, and will never abandon you no matter what happens. My child, lift up your head. Let my light shine into the deepest, darkest corners of your soul. Let my grace soothe the wounds of your spirit that once bled. And keep moving forward, not in your own strength, but in the promise I have given you, that the most beautiful things are beginning to grow from the very place you once thought was the end. My beloved, you have endured trials that not everyone can understand. You have walked through stormy seasons without announcing to the world that you were hurting. You chose silence when others were loud. You patiently guarded your peace while everything around you was in turmoil. And because of that, today I want you to know this: I am proud of you. I am not only pleased that you did not run after the noise, I rejoice because you chose to listen to the still small voice deep within your spirit, the voice only those who truly seek me can hear. While the world chases recognition, visible rewards, and instant gratification, you have chosen another path, the path of quiet trust, steadfast faithfulness, and unwavering commitment without the need for applause. I have seen it all, and I have remembered it all. You did not allow the chaos outside to mislead your soul. When storms raged, when the pressure of public opinion weighed heavy, when the voices of the world roared like thunder, you kept your heart. still not because you were stronger than others, but because you knew how to lean on me. You have come to know that true peace does not come from what you control, but from knowing who holds you. And it is through that stillness that you have become a place where I can dwell, speak, and move. Now, my child, I want you to understand something profound and powerful because you have responded to that gentle whisper. I will now speak forth a greater life through you. Your life will become a living letter written not with ink, but through your actions, your faith, your steadfastness in the dark, and your rising from the wounds. The places that once were closed rooms where you whispered prayers, where you wept alone, where you felt your weakest, these will become places that resound with living testimonies. They will no longer be spaces of tears and lament, but sanctuaries I have raised up to declare restoration, healing, and power. The whispers you once uttered in solitude will become a symphony of life, resounding and spreading far and wide. And those who once told you, "That's enough, stop, now give it up," those who did not understand you, who thought you were chasing foolish dreams, who doubted your path, they will witness what happens when a child of mine refuses to let go. They will see that what you have held on to in faith is not an illusion, but the true seed of glory that is now breaking forth. And they will have to admit it is not the strongest who prevail, but those who know how to stand firm in silence and wait for the right time. Therefore, my child, now rest in my heart. Let your mind be still. You no longer need to strain to prove anything. You do not need to force yourself to be strong in order for it to be called faith. You do not need to display or strive to make someone believe you. You only need to keep being who you are, a child who has chosen to follow my whisper on days when no one else could hear it. You must know this and engrave it deeply within when you choose to listen to me. In the quiet, that is the very moment I begin to use your voice to guide others. Not through speeches, not through fame, but through the way you live, the way you love, the way you endure, the way you obey. Your life itself will become a sermon. Your quiet faith will become a light for those stumbling in the darkness. You have done it, not because you reached a milestone, but because you have been faithful to the process. Not because you succeeded by the standards of the world, but because you did not give up when everything within you wanted to stop. You have learned to walk, not by feelings, but by the leading of the Spirit. You have learned to be silent in the midst of chaos. You have learned to wait when others rushed ahead. You have learned to forgive, to sacrifice, to surrender, and even to let yourself be broken, so that I could rebuild you in greater glory. Now I will lift your voice. Not so you will be exalted, but so that the faith within you will be multiplied. Your voice will no longer be confined to a closed room. It will ripple outward like waves reaching hearts on the brink of collapse. I will use your story filled with cracks, sleepless nights, and silent tears to comfort, to uphold, and to awaken hope in others. You will not have to force yourself to inspire anyone. Your presence, simple, sincere, whole, will be enough to touch the souls of those searching for the way. For you do not speak from intellect, you speak from experience, from flesh and blood, from the days you have walked through and still remain standing. And I will be the echo behind every word you speak, the breath in every step you take, the strength in every silence you hold. My beloved, keep living as you have genuine, humble, deep. I am doing the rest. The door I open no one can shut. What I have promised I will not withdraw. And your voice, forged in stillness, refined through tears, strengthened by waiting, will no longer be a faint echo in the dark. It will be a radiant declaration of what faith can do when it is nurtured in a surrendered heart. And you will know when you look back that no pain was wasted. Every time you chose to believe instead of giving up, to listen instead of resisting, to wait instead of rushing, I have gathered it all, shaping it into a voice the world cannot ignore. Rest now, my child. The road you have walked has not been in vain, and what is coming far exceeds what you have ever hoped for. You are living proof that faith, when cultivated in silence, can resound all the way to heaven. And your voice, the one I have placed within you, is about to rise, not to stir up, but to awaken, not to rebel, but to lead, not to display, but to glorify the one who has brought you through it all with unfailing love. My beloved child, when the eyes of the world look at you and think you are hesitating, delaying, swaying without direction, something far deeper is unfolding in heaven. They do not see what I see. They only notice the surface where you walk slowly, where you pause to breathe, where you choose silence instead of reply. But I, the one who searches hearts and knows every hidden movement of your soul, see clearly those moments that seem like hesitation are in fact sacred spaces, where faith is being forged, where the will is being refined, and where spiritual strength is being etched, not with noise, but with surrender. Your rhythm no longer moves to the push of the world, but has begun to align with the heartbeat of heaven. I see it, and I smile. For faith is not always a decisive, forceful step as people often imagine. Sometimes faith is when you choose to stop and listen to my voice amid the murmurs of the world. Sometimes faith is when you do nothing outwardly, but hold steady within while the storm still rages around you. And it is in those very moments that spiritual muscles, the sinews of faithfulness, the fibers of steadfastness, are being formed deep within your soul. You don't realize how far you've come. You haven't kept count of the times you've faced things that once brought you to tears, that once made you run, that once silenced you in fear. But I know, I see. I remember every moment you trembled yet chose to stay. Every time you were afraid yet did not retreat. And what moves me most is not that the fear has disappeared, but that you no longer let it control you. Fear still comes, it still knocks, but you've learned not to open the door. You no longer prepare a place for it in your heart as you once did. You've stopped letting it decide how you live, how you love, how you walk forward. And do you know, that is strength. Not the heroic kind people tell stories about, not the bold, triumphant kind that dazzles, but the quiet, steady, resilient kind, the kind heaven truly values. The world praises daring assertion and visible achievement, but I cherish the souls who learn to walk without applause. People like you who keep moving forward even when no one sees, no one claps, no one praises. You don't need a stage. You don't need the spotlight. You only need me and my peace within you. And that is what makes you different. Every time you choose to follow my word, even when your feelings haven't caught up, even when circumstances haven't changed, even when doubts still lurk, you are stepping deeper into a land only those with faith can enter, the land of true rest. Not the false calm that comes from favorable conditions, but the deep rest that comes from knowing exactly who I am. You've experienced it, the peace that doesn't come from everything around you being calm, but from knowing this: no matter what happens, I am still here. And every time you believe that you defeat another lie, every time you refuse to let worry dictate your actions, you are telling the enemy, I do not belong to fear. I belong to the one who called me by name. And that, my child, is a spiritual victory far greater than anything the world could applaud. You've stopped letting anxiety lead the way. You've begun letting my promises set your direction, even without seeing the full picture. Even while things remain unclear, you still choose to go on. And that choice itself is making way for me to move. The moment you stop leaning on your own understanding and instead cling to my instruction, you step into a new depth in our relationship where you no longer live by feelings but by truth. And the truth is this: you are loved, chosen, protected, and guided. Not because you are perfect, but because you are mine. Not because you never fail, but because you have learned to return every time you wander. Not because you know the plan, but because you trust the one who has the plan for you. That faith, simple, quiet, and steadfast, is what I treasure most. Beloved, never underestimate the small steps. Never dismiss the moments that seem ordinary. In my kingdom, the greatest things always begin as the smallest seeds. And every time you say yes to me, even if only in your heart, you are planting a seed that will grow into something far beyond what you ever dared to imagine. So keep walking as you are, without hurry, without pressure, without comparison. Keep listening, waiting, and obeying. I am using your very life to write a love song between heaven and earth. A song that doesn't need fame but will be sung forever in the hearts of those who have known the dark and through your voice have found the light again. You don't need to know exactly what tomorrow holds. You only need to know that I am holding your hand today, and that is enough. For I am not only the one who brings you to the destination, I am the one who walks with you, step by step. And every step taken in faith, no matter how slow, no matter how unseen, is a step closer to the fullness I have prepared for you. Keep choosing peace. Let me be your resting place, and you will see what the world cannot understand. I will use to reveal my glory through your very life, through every quiet step you take. For in my eyes you are not slow. You are growing at the right pace, in the right time, in the right way, in heaven's rhythm. And I do not just see it. I am proud of you, my beloved child. When all the voices of the world rise in unison, demanding a reaction, demanding a hasty decision, urging rash action born out of fear, I see you, still standing, not swept away by the whirlwind, not pushed by pressure, not lured into panic. You have chosen to keep your heart still. You have not allowed the noise outside to dictate the voice within. You have not reacted out of impulse. You have chosen to respond from the quiet born of deep faith. And I want you to understand this clearly. Every storm you have passed through, every battle that felt beyond your strength, these were never mere challenges. They were not random obstacles sent to make you falter. They were lessons, sacred training sessions I have used to shape your soul. Not a single moment has been wasted. Not a single fight has been without meaning. Every time you have held on to faith in the midst of what you could not understand, you have been forged, not merely to survive, but to become strong in a way the world cannot define. I am doing something within you, something that cannot be measured by human eyes. You are being formed into someone whose courage does not depend on outward circumstances, someone whose peace does not come from everything being all right, but from a deeper, unshakable source, my presence. Someone whose joy cannot be stolen by chaos, cannot be dictated by highs or lows, cannot be bound by light or darkness, but is anchored in the truth that you belong to me. Do you know how rare and precious that is, my beloved? In a world that craves noise, rushes headlong, easily, grows weary, and sways with every change, it is your silent perseverance, your steadfastness in quiet, and your resolute trust in stillness that roar like thunder in the spiritual realm. This is spiritual maturity, not handed to you as a gift, but forged through tears, through days, without a single encouraging pat on the shoulder, through nights when only I could hear the cries of your heart. You may think you are simply trying each day not to collapse, but heaven records every one of those brave steps as part of an epic anthem. For you have dared to believe when there was no reason left to believe. You have chosen hope when every sign told you to let go. You have resisted the voices screaming in your mind that you are not enough, that nothing is worth the effort anymore, and that my child has made hell tremble. For you are doing what darkness hates most. You still believe. Not a blind faith, not an easy faith, but faith born from collision with reality, crushed by disappointment, yet rising again to say, even if nothing is as I hoped, I still know you are good. That kind of faith cannot be faked. It can only be born from the journey of walking through real pain and still choosing to remain with me. And do you know this? It is in that very place where your eyes see no sign of change, where all remains silent, that true faith lives. It is the ground where I perform the most enduring, lasting, eternal miracles. Not the miracle of quick fixes, but the transformation of the root. It is where your soul no longer demands evidence to believe, but believes because it knows who I am. I know the world may say otherwise. I know there are days when you stand alone against the opposition, whether from people, from circumstances, or even from your own weary heart. Everything may scream in your face. Nothing is happening. Your faith is useless. If God is real, why is it still like this? But my child, in those moments when you do not need to see with your eyes in order to keep walking, that is where faith becomes a way of life. When you stand in the harshness of reality and still declare, I know the one in whom I believe, that truth becomes a fortress the enemy cannot breach. I have seen you do this, and I cannot help but be moved. You have come farther than you think. Every time you chose to place your trust in me rather than in feelings, circumstances, or lies, you laid down another solid stone on the path of your spiritual journey. Not a single step was wasted. Not a single choice was meaningless. What you are building is not just for today, but for the seasons to come, for the souls who will follow in your footsteps, for the generations who will reap the faithfulness you are sowing through your steadfast belief in this dark day. So do not fear if change does not come immediately. Do not lose heart if the miracle has not yet appeared before your eyes. Do not doubt when you still find yourself in the desert. Remember, it was in the wilderness that I caused manna to fall from heaven. It was I who brought forth water from the rock, and it is I who is sustaining you each day, not with what you expect, but with what you truly need. You do not need to know everything to believe. You do not need to see the whole picture to take the next step. You only need this one thing to believe, that I am who I have said I am, unchanging, unwavering, never abandoning, never forgetting. No matter who says otherwise, no matter if the whole world doubts, I do not change. And my beloved, with even such a small faith as that, I will do things you have never imagined. I am working right now, in the silence, in the parts of your life where you think nothing is happening. And when the time comes, you will see every tear, every prayer, every breath of effort, every decision to trust, all have been the foundation for a new life I am bringing forth within you. My beloved, I have witnessed your transformation, not in a single burst of light, but in the steady, deliberate steps you have taken through the land of testing. You have entered a different kind of battle. No longer are you struggling in vain, trying to control everything, shaping the future with trembling hands. No longer are you lying awake at night in fear, trying to map out every move to avoid failure. Now you are fighting in an entirely different way, no longer relying on fists, strategies, or your own ability, but by surrender. You have changed your strategy, not with words, but with the posture of your heart. You have begun to let go of the things you once clung to so tightly, the things you thought would destroy you if they were lost. In their place, you have invited me, the one who formed you, who knows every breath you take, into every corner of your life. Not only the beautiful, presentable, easy-to-share parts, but also the wounded, chaotic, and conflicted parts. You dared to open the door for me to enter the territory you once kept hidden. That very moment was the turning point. Not because something instantly changed on the outside, not because the storm suddenly ceased, but because deep in the core of your soul something shifted. It was there that truth began to take root. It was there that you stopped living by impulse, stopped chasing public opinion, stopped measuring your worth by outward success. From that place, a new peace began to rise. A quiet, steady strength began to grow. A power emerged that cannot be shaken by the changing weather of life. And now, as you stand at the threshold of a new season, looking back at the road you have traveled, you begin to see that nothing was wasted. Not even the nights that seemed endlessly dark. Not even the moments you collapsed under unspoken pain. Not even the loneliness that made you feel abandoned. I have used it all. Every piece, has been part of shaping who you are today. The chaos that once made you want to give up has now become a classroom where I have taught you to discern between eternal truth and the passing screams of the moment. The very things that once left you disoriented have become tools for you to learn how to walk by the leading of my spirit, rather than being driven by social pressure, human opinions, or the lifeless rhythm of the crowd. I have taught you in the quiet, taught you through failure, taught you in what others might have called a waste. The valley that seemed to have drained every ounce of life from you was the very place I led you to, so you could learn a priceless lesson how to find the source of living water that never runs dry. Not water that flows from success, nor water that flows from praise, but the living water that springs from within you because I dwell in you. You have learned to no longer seek life from the outside. Now you know that you may thirst in the desert, yet never run dry. For the source within you does not depend on the rain from heaven, but on the divine stream I have placed inside you. You walked out of that place not with a flawless appearance, but with scars. Yes, the marks remain, once filled with pain, once broken, once heavy with disappointment, but now they are no longer symbols of failure. Those scars are living proof that you fought, that you did not give up, that you stood firm in the very thing that could have destroyed you. They are the sign that you walked through hell but never made it your home. You chose to keep breathing, to keep believing, to keep loving, to keep living, even when nothing inside you told you it was easy. You are no longer who you once were. You are no longer one who seeks only safety. Now you are one who understands that glory does not come from avoiding pain, but from letting me turn pain into victory. You no longer seek to hide from the storm. You have learned to walk with me in the midst of it, and that has made you strong in a way no force can touch. You did not let wounds harden your tender heart. You did not let bitterness close the door to love. You did not let the past dictate your future. Every time you chose to forgive, instead of clutching the hurt, every time you chose to listen instead of defending yourself, every time you chose to trust in my goodness rather than your fear, you stepped deeper into true maturity. Now I see a child no longer ruled by uncertainty, but living from conviction. No longer tossed by waves of emotion, but anchoring your heart in truth. No longer torn between the world's choices, but knowing clearly to whom you belong and why you were born. I do not measure you by what you have accomplished. I measure you by faithfulness, by the way you return to me after every fall, by the way you take my hand, even when you cannot see the way, by the way you keep praying, even when you have no words left to speak. And now when I look at you, I see a spiritual warrior, not because you have never feared, never been weak, or never doubted, but because in the midst of all that, you still chose not to walk away from me. You still stood, still breathed, still believed, and that shakes the heavens. My beloved child, I want you to know this. What you are living now is proof of true renewal, not an outward change to please others, but transformation from the inside out where I dwell. And from that transformation I will cause your life to blossom, not by your own strength, but by the life I have planted within you, a life that can never be extinguished, never run dry, and never be stolen. So keep walking with those scars. They do not weaken you. They are badges of survival, evidence of faith tested and proven. And I will use those very things, small tattered, though they seem to write a story of glory, not only to honor me, but to bring life to souls weary and searching for the way. My beloved, I know there are days when life grows unbearably loud, when the world outside seems to shout without pause. You must succeed, you must hurry, you must be strong. When 1,000 voices drown out the stillness within, making it hard to tell what is true and what is illusion. When even you can no longer hear your own voice, and the weariness causes you to draw inward, hiding behind a quiet shell just to protect yourself, to survive, to keep from breaking. But my child, in that withdrawal, I have not left you. I do not panic at your silence. I do not grow angry because you no longer speak long, eloquent prayers as you once did. On the contrary, I have leaned in closer than ever. I have stepped nearer, not because you called loudly, but because I hear the trembling beat of your heart. I see the unspoken longing, and I recognize that in that silence you are still holding on to something sacred, life itself. There is a hidden and sacred place within you, a place no words can truly describe, no one else can enter, and no sermon can ever reach. It is a place without loud declarations or streams of tears, only a stillness so deep you can almost hear the fragile tremor of the faith that remains. This is the holy chamber, where your soul does nothing but sit, no striving, no proving, no restless stirring, just stillness. And it is there that I have met you. Not in the bold proclamations that you will never fall, not in the promises to change or do better, not under the bright lights of a stage or in the applause of people, but in those blurred moments when you had no more words, no more strength, no more reason to keep going, when all you had left was presence. You did not walk away, you stayed. Even when you could do nothing, you did not leave me. And to me, that holds immeasurable worth. You may think you are weak, lacking faith, lacking strength, lacking stability, but I do not measure you as the world does. You think you have failed because you can no longer fight like before, but I see differently that stillness is not giving up, it is surrender. It is not the surrender of helplessness, but of trust, when you stop struggling and begin letting go so that I may step in, and that very surrender draws me closer than any act could. I am not looking for souls that endlessly strain to appear strong. I am seeking hearts that truly need me, souls that know that without me they cannot. And you in your stillness have acknowledged that truth, not with words, but through the silent offering of your presence. You do not need to shout for me to hear, you only need to stay. You only need to keep your heart turned toward me, even if it is with a weary breath. This is where miracles begin, not in the noise where success is visible to all, but in the hidden chamber where no one sees you struggling, collapsing, gasping for breath. Miracles do not always begin with the sound of trumpets. Often they begin with a sigh, with that one moment you did not turn away, that one moment you did not close your heart, that one yes you whispered, even when nothing seemed to change. And I stepped into that place, the place you thought held nothing for me to work with, the place you felt was dry, hardened, and desolate. Yet to me it was the richest soil, for in that brokenness you had nothing left to hide. I do not need you to pretend you are fine. I only need you to let me in, and you did not with words, but by remaining, by offering a wordless surrender. My beloved, that surrender is not defeat, it is the highest spiritual victory. When you choose to lay everything down, your plans, your control, your fears, your anxieties, and place your trust fully in me, that is when I can move without hindrance. When you stop forcing things your way, I am free to move in, mine a way beyond your understanding, yet always good, always timely, always full of grace and truth. And you will soon realize that in that holy chamber, unseen by others, I am doing my deepest work. I am healing wounds you do not even know exist. I am stripping away the masks you have worn for years. I am softening your heart, not to weaken you, but to make you truly alive, to restore you to the person I created you to be from the very beginning. I am redrawing the boundaries of your soul, replacing lies with truth and raising a new temple in the ruins, not built of stone, but of surrender and trust. What I build in the silence will be stronger than anything the world has ever built in its noise. So do not be ashamed of your quiet, and do not feel useless because you are not doing as much as before. You are not retreating. You are learning to walk in a deeper way, a way only the broken can understand a way. Only those who have reached the end of pain can know that I am enough, and when you have nothing left, having me is everything. Stay there. Keep giving me room to heal. Do not rush back into the noise because of the world's pressure. Do not force a smile when your heart is still mending. I do not need your false strength. I only need your truth with me, and that truth will set you free. There will come a time when you step out of that sacred room, not with a vacant stare, but with eyes illuminated by a deep restoration. You will walk not with strained effort, but with grace, not because you made it happen, but because I have done it within you. And others will not understand what has taken place, for they have not seen that holy room. But you know, I know, and that is enough. For the deepest things always begin in silence, and it is in that silence that you met me, and I touched you, forever, never leaving, never ceasing to love, never stopping the work of renewal, never allowing you to walk alone. My beloved, I know every turn you have taken, every crossroad where your heart trembled between hope and despair. You once carried a firm belief that healing would only come when you acted enough, tried hard enough, or spoke the right words. That if you followed the right process, prayed with enough intensity, walked far enough, or raised your voice loudly enough, the wounds would vanish, the pain would fade, and you would be whole again. You thought restoration was an unbroken chain of actions, never slowing, never stopping, never allowing a pause. But now I see you learning something new, a simple yet profound truth, a lesson. Only hearts that have been shattered can truly understand that sometimes healing does not arrive through cries or grand transformation, but in the quietest moments, in the seemingly empty spaces where nothing appears to be happening. It is in that silence that I am doing my most wondrous work, a work no human eye can see, no words can fully capture. I am touching places you do not dare to name. The corners of memory you have buried deep, the old wounds you thought had healed, but were only covered by time and forgetfulness. I enter there not with noise, not with haste, not with force, but with gentleness, patience, and unfailing love. You believed healing was a battle you had to win on your own, but the truth is, I am the one who fights for you. Healing does not always arrive in a roar. Sometimes it comes like a delicate breeze passing through a weary soul, not to change everything at once, but to begin a deeper process, the process of true healing. Not to restore you to what you once were, but to shape you into a new version, deeper, stronger, truer, freer. You do not always need to say something. I do not love you for the words you speak. I love you because you are you. And here is the wonder: simply by being present, simply by remaining, even without doing anything, you have given me space to act. I do not require you to run into my presence with a loud cry. I only ask you to stay, and that you have done. You have stayed even with a trembling heart. You have chosen not to leave, even when temptation whispered for you to run from your feelings, from reality, from me. You have not surrendered to the urge to isolate yourself, to retreat from all connection because you feared you were a burden that no one truly understood. You have not numbed yourself with things that only pretend to comfort but secretly lull your soul to sleep, things like overwork, endless distraction, or even heartless religion. You have chosen the harder thing, to remain in the silence and wait. You do not realize how deeply that choice has moved heaven. For in a world obsessed with speed, results, and spectacle, you chose something unseen and unpraised: patience. You chose to stay within the pain, not letting it consume you, yet not trying to force it away. You did not seek to escape reality. You learned to invite me into it with you. And it is in that very patience that I am at work. I am mending your soul in ways that go far beyond any pattern you have ever known. I am weaving together the scattered pieces of your heart with the thread of grace, carefully stitch by stitch, row by row, without haste and without missing a single place. You do not see it, but I see it. You do not feel it, but it is happening. My child, sometimes healing does not come wrapped in a pleasant feeling or with instant relief. Sometimes it arrives as an inner steadiness, a day when you suddenly realize that what once made you weep no longer controls you, that what once made you hide, you can now face, that you no longer need everything around you to change in order to live fully. This is the sign of restoration, not on the surface but at the very root. And those who once looked at you and thought you had stopped moving will not understand what is happening. They cannot see the sacred room where you and I meet in silence. They cannot hear my voice comforting you through the long night. But you know, and I know, and that is enough. Beloved, there is no moment of your presence that is wasted, whether it is in silence, in tears, or in the wrestling of your soul. Every moment you remain is a spiritual declaration that you choose me, even when nothing is easy. And that makes darkness tremble. For a person who still chooses to stay when there is nothing left to cling to is a person through whom my power can flow without limit. Healing is not a destination, it is a journey. A journey where every step, small, slow, or uncertain, still draws you closer to wholeness in me. And I want you to know you are not walking alone. You are not waiting alone. You are not silent in solitude. I am there, closer than you think, quieter than you expect, yet more powerful than anything you could ask or imagine. So keep staying even when you see no change. Keep letting me work in the quiet. For the day will come when you step out of that room, no longer the person you once were, but a new creation, rebuilt not by effort, but by love. And that love has never been absent. Not when you hurt, not when you were weary, not when you were silent, and certainly not when you chose to remain. So do not worry if you have no words, I am the word. Do not worry if you take no action, I am the one who acts. Do not fear if you feel nothing, I am not bound by your feelings. I am the one who works in all circumstances, and I am working in you. You have done the one thing that matters, you have remained. And from that place every miracle begins. Not with a loud explosion, but with a gentle breath. Not with running fast, but with stopping. Not with grand gestures, but with a wholehearted presence. And yes, I am healing you, bit by bit, day by day, in love, in truth, in the sacred silence where it is only you and me. And there you will know I have never abandoned you. I was only waiting for you to be still, so I could do my part. And now you are giving me that space, and it is the most beautiful thing you could offer. I love you, and I will not stop until every broken place in you is restored by my own hand. My precious one, there have been seasons when it felt as though everything you ever trusted in, ever built, ever held dear, with all your heart was fading before your eyes like a wisp of smoke. There have been times you walked not on strong legs but on bleeding knees, with breath running thin with prayers that never made it into words. You have passed through days that seemed endless, when every dream shattered in your hands, every relationship dimmed, and everything you thought was necessary was lifted from your grasp like wind sweeping away dust. And I know there were moments when you looked up at the sky and asked, Lord, have I done something wrong? You condemned yourself in silence, believing that the emptiness and brokenness you felt were signs of punishment. Alone you searched for some fault in yourself that could explain the weight of the pain you carried. I saw every struggle that tore through your mind, and I was there not to accuse you, but to hold you close. But now, as the storm has calmed and you begin to look back on that journey with eyes of faith instead of fear, you are slowly coming to understand something you could not grasp before. Not everything lost is a punishment. Not every collapse is an ending. Sometimes what is burned away must be burned, so that what is eternal can be revealed. You once thought that fire was the fire of destruction, but in truth it was the fire of refining. I did not send the flames to destroy you, but to purify you like a goldsmith, burning away the impurities to preserve what is most precious. What you thought was essential was at times only excess. The things you clung to, as if they were your very source of life, were in reality the very things keeping you from receiving true life from me. You have passed through a furnace. No one else saw how fierce those flames were. No one knew how many times you wanted to give up, but I knew. I saw the firelight reflected in your tears. I heard the sound of your heart cracking in the long nights. I witnessed it all without turning away, without leaving you. And I sat beside you in that fire, not to let it consume you, but to keep you from falling apart. And now, as you look back, you begin to see the miracle right in the midst of desolation. I am causing something new to take root. In the place where it seemed nothing remained, I am planting seeds that will endure forever. You once thought all beauty had been swept away, but what you did not know is that what is truly unshakable cannot be burned by the flames. Instead, it is revealed more clearly once every outer layer has been burned away. The trial did not define your worth. It revealed it. The fire did not declare you not good enough. It proved that there was something in you worth preserving and worth making even more radiant. If there were no value, there would be no need for refining. But because you are precious, I allowed the fire to touch you. Not to make you lose yourself, but to help you find your truest self, the one I designed from the very beginning. And do you know, in those seasons of fire, it was not only you who was refined, your faith was purified as well. The things you once believed, simply because of tradition, habit, or the influence of others, have been stripped away, leaving only what is truly yours. Faith that has been tested does not shake easily. Love is no longer a fleeting emotion, but a deep commitment. And hope is no longer a fragile illusion, but a steady light in the darkness. You have learned that sometimes the most precious things are born from ashes, that it is in seasons of drought that the roots of faith grow deepest, that it is not in the harvest, but in the famine that you truly learn to live, not by what you see, but by the one who never changes. And the maturity you now carry did not come from ease, but from each trembling, steady step you took through the red-hot flames. You may still bear the marks of those days. Your heart may not yet be fully healed. But my dear one, look at yourself. You are still here. You were never consumed as you feared. You came through, not because of your strength, but because my grace was enough. Not because you never trembled, but because you chose to believe in the midst of fear. The beautiful things do not vanish. They are simply being reshaped, refined, and lifted to a higher place. The dreams of the past are not extinguished. They are being transformed, aligned, not with fleeting plans, but with eternal purpose. You have not lost everything. You are merely being stripped of what no longer serves the intention I have for you. And in that process, you are becoming someone new, deeper, steadier, and more trustworthy. So do not be ashamed of the seasons where the fire burned fiercely. Do not regret what has been lost. Do not look back with bitterness. Look back with gratitude. For without those seasons, you would not hold the faith you carry today. Without those breakings, you would not possess the understanding, the compassion, and the maturing wisdom now growing within you. Beneath the very flames the enemy hoped would consume your essence, I saw something entirely different taking shape. The adversary sought to burn away your faith, to shatter your hope, to extinguish the light within your soul. But I, with unshakable love and an all-seeing gaze, used those same flames not to mold you according to the world's will, but to forge you into my likeness. While others turned and fled from the heat, seeking shelter from the trial, you stepped forward with courage, even when your legs trembled and your tears had yet to dry. You did not realize that each slow but resolute step was engraving something invisible upon your soul. You thought you were merely getting through, but in truth you were being prepared to carry something weighty, a glory not given to those who fear the fire, but reserved for those who dare to remain within it. Now as the ashes settle and the harsh winds momentarily subside, you stand in a place entirely new, not merely new in location, but new in nature. You are no longer the person you once were, not one who lives swayed by feelings or tossed by the winds of circumstance, not a soul easily unsettled by the noise outside. Now you carry depth, a depth not born from books or sermons but birthed in the crucible of suffering and surrender. No one could have taught you the lessons that only the fire had the power to inscribe upon your heart. No sermon could have imparted the kind of spiritual discernment forged in the nights when you wept in silence, yet still chose to believe, to wait, and to remain. The anointing you bear today did not come from the affirmation or support of others, but from the brokenness you have walked through. You have been anointed through sorrow, sanctified through loss, positioned by unseen choices, the decision to stay when the easiest path was to let go, the prayers whispered unheard by men, yet shaking the realm of the Spirit, the small seed of faith that even all of hell could not extinguish. As you walked through the fire, you did not yet know that there exists a kind of victory that needs no applause, no fireworks, no spotlight. It is the kind of victory that happens in the quiet, when the soul does not shatter, even though everything else has collapsed. This victory bears the name steadfastness. It is called surrender. It is called obedience, even when there is no answer. And that is why what you now carry is priceless. No one can steal the depth you have dug through tears. No force can take away the understanding you have learned in the midnight darkness. No storm can rob you of the quiet you have cultivated in your heart. Within you is a new voice, not one forged through imitation, but one shaped by experience. A voice that does not need to be loud to have weight. A voice that can shatter chains not because of its volume, but because of the spiritual authority it carries. And do you know I did not let you walk through the fire without purpose? I have written every moment of that process. Every second you did not give up, every minute you chose to believe. Every day you stood, when everything inside you wanted to collapse, each one is a golden line in the eternal manuscript I am writing about you. Nothing is wasted, no pain is in vain. Every wound, every stumble, every sigh in the night, each is a piece that has formed the spiritual stature you now bear. And now you are not merely one who has survived. You have been entrusted with something sacred to carry my presence into places of darkness where others dare not go. You are no longer simply one who needs healing. Now you are the one who carries the oil of healing. You are no longer merely someone who begs for peace. Now you bring that peace to others. You are no longer just a soul longing to be upheld. Now you are the very hands that lift others when they falter in their own battles. And the wondrous thing is you have lost nothing in the fire except what was never meant to belong to you. Doubt, fear, pride, the old self, all have been burned away so that a new person could emerge strong, humble, radiant, and ready. Ready not to receive applause but to serve, ready not to display but to pour out. This is no longer a journey to prove something. It is a journey to reflect something. Reflect me through every step, every word, through the way you live, forgive, sacrifice, and love. There is no need to rush, no need to showcase. For now you understand what is truly powerful is not what shouts the loudest, but what remains steadfast. Not the sudden burst of blinding light, but the enduring flame that will not go out. My beloved child, I am deeply pleased that you did not run from the process. I am moved that you chose to stay. And now, as every layer of ash has settled, I see more clearly than ever what has grown within you, a faith as solid as stone, a pure heart, a soul that knows how to listen, to yield, and to love without condition. And because you have not lost yourself in the fire, I will now entrust to you the things of heaven. You have not been transformed merely for your own freedom, but so you may become one who brings freedom to souls still bound by fear and sin. You carry a kind of oil that cannot be bought with silver or gold, oil refined through faithfulness in suffering. This oil does not draw attention to itself. yet it breaks chains. It is not glittering, yet it heals the soul. It does not come from knowledge, but from surrender. And that is your portion, the portion no one can ever take from you. You have overcome, not as one who merely survives, but as one who has been sanctified. Not as one who still carries the scent of ashes, but as one who radiates the fragrance of the fire, one who preserved you in the fire and brought you out with his own hand. And from that place the story begins anew, a completely new chapter, where you do not simply survive the battle, but begin to live with the mission entrusted to you from heaven. And I, the one who walked with you in the fire, will also walk with you in glory. Under the weight that seemed impossible to bear any longer, you kept going. There were days when you could hardly feel anything at all, only a cold emptiness in your soul, a silence so prolonged it felt as though everything you once believed in had ceased to answer. Yet even when the light seemed to fade from your eyes, I never once stepped away from you. What you thought you were carrying alone had always been held in my hands. That burden without me, you would not have been able to stand under it until this day. You do not need to be the strong one. You do not need to always appear fearless or unshaken. You do not need to hide your tears or try to look as if nothing inside you is breaking. I have seen it, all those moments when you forced a smile to ease others' hearts while your own was drowning in the storm. I have seen you quietly shoulder responsibilities not only for yourself but for those you love. And when no one knew, when no one asked, when no one wiped away your tears, I did. In the silence, I wiped every tear that human eyes could not see. The resilience you have today did not come from your own strength. It is because I held you firmly in my hands when you no longer had the strength to hold yourself together. Not because you had no fear, but because I removed the weight of fear from your heart so you could keep walking. You did not see it, but in every sigh, in every broken prayer, I was absorbing your pain, embracing you with a peace the world cannot give. The parts of your soul that began to crumble, I upheld them, keeping you from collapsing completely. You thought yourself weak because you could not always be strong, but you did not know I call that courage. I do not measure your strength by the number of easy victories, but by the times you chose not to give up when you had no strength left. And that is exactly what you did. You stayed, you waited, you loved, you served, you trusted, even when no one knew you were breaking inside. I see clearly how you kept showing up, kept loving, kept sacrificing. You did not wait to be loved before you loved. You did not wait to be repaid before you gave. You poured your soul into what you believed was right. Even when your prayers seemed unanswered, even when your dreams remained unfulfilled, you did not let go of your faith. You remained faithful, kept building others up, kept kindling hope in places where no one else believed anymore. And do you know, that is where the miracle begins. Not in the thunderclap from the sky, not in some extraordinary sign, but in the moments you quietly chose what is right when no one was watching. In solitude, you birthed a silent courage that even the gates of hell could not crush. In weariness, you still spoke words of love. In hurt, you still wished good for others. In emptiness, you still opened your heart. That is the greatness you did not realize you carried. That is the faithfulness I will never overlook. Not one of your tears is meaningless. Not a single sigh has drifted beyond my reach. I have engraved each one upon my heart. And I do not merely remember, I am moving on your behalf. Nothing you have endured has been wasted. You think you have only been surviving from day to day, but in reality you have been sowing something sacred in the unseen. And that harvest is nearer than it has ever been. The pressure you thought would crush you has in truth been shaping you into the person I intended from the very beginning. The loneliness you have borne is opening within you a tenderness toward the pain of others. The wounds you have been afraid to speak of are becoming the very place from which compassion flows, a place where your prayers will bring healing not only to you but to many other souls. My child, What I love in you is not perfection, but sincerity. It is the heart that still chooses to love even after it has been broken. It is the hands that still reach out to others even after they have been rejected. It is the eyes that still turn toward me, though they have been wet with tears. It is the soul that refuses to give up even after it has fallen. This is what delights me. This is why I will not leave you in this dark place forever. The restoration you long for is coming, but not in the way you expect. It will not merely be the return of what was lost, but the gift of something new, deeper, stronger, fuller. I will not only restore what was taken, I will give you things you never dared to dream of. I will turn your mourning into joy, your ashes into beauty, your sighs into songs of praise. So, my beloved child, do not measure yourself through the eyes of others, nor even through your own weary gaze. See yourself through. My eyes, a silent warrior, one who loves, in a way, no one else does, a soul that still stands tall amid the ruins. A heart so brave it dares to keep giving, even when there is nothing left to hold on to. And now, as the old things fade behind the curtain of the past, you begin to sense something entirely different, a quiet yet profound relief, as though a heavy skin has been peeled away from your soul. You no longer need to cling to what no longer brings life. You no longer have to strain to keep alive what your spirit has long known is no longer yours to carry. There is a gentle freedom seeping into every corner of your inner being, a freedom that comes not from grasping or achieving, but from releasing at the right time. You are learning how not to grieve when a door closes. You are learning that letting go is not failure, but a form of trust. Trust that I never allow anything to leave your life without something better awaiting ahead. When you release what I no longer want you to hold, you do not fall into emptiness. Instead, you are lifted higher, lighter, and more ready. And from there, new light begins to filter in, leading you toward horizons you once thought were beyond your reach. Your mind, once shrouded by thick clouds of doubt and regret, is becoming clear again. You are beginning to see not with physical eyes, but with the eyes of faith. Everything may look the same outwardly, yet within you, something has changed. There is a peace you have never known before, a relief that cannot be explained, a gentle certainty that everything unfolding is part of a far greater plan than anything you ever tried to control. And it is in that peace that you begin to see new doors, pathways you had never noticed before, once hidden beneath the weight of disappointments, wounds, and illusions you once clung to. These doors do not appear in the noise, but in the stillness when you stop knocking on doors that are already dead. It is in the moment you cease asking me to reopen the ones I have closed out of love that you can finally see the opportunities that have been waiting for you in the silence all along. You once believed there was nothing good left after loss, but now you are beginning to see that loss was not the end, but the clearing of the way. It was the cleansing of the soil of your heart, so that I might plant new seeds, seeds no longer choked by the weeds of the past. And it is when your hands are no longer clutching the things that once caused you pain that you can finally reach for what I truly desire you to have. Not by pressure, not by blind striving, but through a deep surrender, one no longer tainted by defeat but infused with maturity. My child, what I am bringing you into is not just another version of what was before. It is not a patchwork repair of what was broken. It is not a fragile imitation of shattered dreams. What I am opening for you is something wholly new, something bearing the unmistakable imprint of my own hand. It does not come to replace what has passed. It comes to show you that I have always been far beyond the limits of your imagination. And this new thing does not need to compete to prove its worth, for it is unlike anything you have ever known. It does not speak to you saying, I am better than what came before. It simply stands in the radiance of its own light, and its presence alone is enough for you to understand this is what you have been prepared for through the entire journey. This new thing did not come sooner because you were not ready. But now things have changed. The wounds have healed, though they may still bear scars. The inner turmoil has quieted, though at times it may still echo like a whisper. But you are no longer who you once were. Your soul has passed through fire and ash, and because of that you are strong enough not to lose yourself when the good arrives. You have learned not to idolize the gift, but to see the giver behind every blessing. The new is not coming to make you afraid. It comes like a refreshing river in the midst of drought, gentle yet powerful, quiet yet undeniable. What it requires from you is not skill or effort, but trust. Trust that I have truly prepared this specifically for you long before you even knew you needed it. And so step into it. Do not let the past bind your feet in the present. Do not let regret over what did not happen tie your hands from receiving what I am giving. Do not ask why the old had to leave. Instead, ask, Lord, what must I have within me to hold fast to this new thing? For what I give is not just a gift, it is an entrustment, a door to a new journey, an opportunity not merely to live, but to live in the fullness of the purpose I have placed within you from the beginning. This is the time when you no longer have to fight to be chosen. You are already chosen. This is the time when you no longer have to prove your worth. You have worth in my eyes. And this is the time when you do not need to cling to what has left, for I am giving you what no one can take away, a beginning that is holy and radiant. You did not arrive here by staying in the comfort zone. You came here through quiet obedience, through prayers no one else heard, through steps that, though trembling, still moved toward the light. And now I am setting before you a path upon which I, myself, have already gone ahead, clearing every obstacle from your way. Therefore do not be afraid. Step forward, not in haste, but in conviction. Not under pressure, but in peace. For what I have prepared for you is not only new, but worthy of all that you have endured. Above all, it is what most perfectly fits your soul, tailored to the true self I have created you to be. This is not merely a change of seasons. This is a rebirth. And you, my beloved child, are the living testimony that when a person is willing to let go of the old, they never leave empty-handed. They always receive something greater, deeper, and far more beautiful in return. There was a time when you stood in a strange land where every familiar landscape suddenly felt foreign. Everything you once leaned on for support vanished, and what had once been your compass became only faint traces in your mind. You looked ahead, yet the road before you was no longer clear. You turned back, yet the past no longer had the strength to uphold you. All seemed shrouded in a thick fog, a haze that not only blurred your physical sight but also shook the eyes of your faith. You tried. Oh, how you tried. You made plan A, then plan B. You charted a course and prepared for unexpected turns. You believed that if you prepared thoroughly enough, if you managed carefully enough, everything would follow the path you desired. But the tighter you held on, the more it all slipped away, like trying to hold water in dry, weary hands. The harder you pressed, the more you lost. And so exhausted from trying to control your life, you found yourself in a silent place. No answers. No confirmations. No clear word from heaven. Yet it was in that very stillness that something miraculous began to take root, quietly but steadfastly. Not loud or striking like lightning, but gentle like morning dew resting upon crushed petals. You began to believe. Not a belief colored by fleeting emotion. Not the kind of faith that vanishes when the storm comes, but a deep trust born from the most barren places of your soul. A trust that did not rest on evidence, but was nurtured through surrender. You believed me not because you could see me clearly, but because there was nothing else solid enough to cling to. You believed not because you were surrounded by signs, but because all signs had faded, and only a soft whisper remained within you, saying, "Stay, do not let go. I am here." That is true faith. A faith that makes angels bow in awe. A faith not born from radiant glory, but from the depths of night. Not from what is easy, but from nameless wounds. It is in the place that seemed most barren that a new kind of life began to sprout in you, a life no longer sustained by immediate results, but upheld by quiet, unwavering faithfulness. I have seen you when no one else saw you. I have heard your sighs in the long, sleepless nights. I have listened to every prayer you whispered, not with your lips, but with the sobs of your spirit. And it was in those moments, when no one was near, when nothing was clear, when no answers came, that you became the person I called you to be. Not through fullness, but through emptiness. Not through light, but through the darkness itself. And you did not even realize it, but every step you took through that fog, every step you continued to take without knowing where you were going, was reshaping the very core within you. Each footstep in uncertainty was not misdirection, but a miraculous leading, not through reasoning, but through the sacred connection between me and your soul. There were days when all you could do was not give up. There were nights when your only remaining breath was enough to whisper in your heart, "Lord, I don't understand, but I'm still here." And it was on those very days, in those very nights, that I was doing the deepest work in your soul, quietly mending, silently, strengthening, patiently, shaping. No one saw it, no one praised it, but heaven recorded it. Because you chose to believe, when there was no reason to believe, you have entered a depth of intimacy with me that not everyone will understand. You did not know what was coming, yet you still said, "Lord, I trust you." You could not see the path, yet you prayed, "Lead me." And when you prayed like that, right in the thickest fog, you were not only being guided, you were being lifted. My beloved child, there are times I do not make the path clear, because I want you to learn how to walk in the dark while still trusting that I am the light. There are times I do not explain, because I want you to trust my heart more than my plan. And there are times I do not change the circumstance, not because I do not love you, but because that very circumstance is shaping you into the image of the one you are following. Do you remember? In the deepest moments, it was there that you felt me, closer than ever. Not when you were victorious, but when you had nothing left to offer except your weakness. Not when you knew everything, but when you knew nothing yet still chose not to leave me. Your faith now, my child, is no longer something that merely rests on your lips. It is the blood flowing through every step you take. It is the ember that keeps burning in your heart no matter how cold the world becomes. And I tell you this with solemnity, that faith is creating unseen movements that in time you will see have transformed your entire life. Doors you once thought hopeless are turning. Dreams you thought were buried are stirring to life. But this time, it is not you pulling them toward yourself. It is I bringing them to you, because your faith has opened the space for me to move fully. You once thought faith was a destination, but now you are learning that faith is a way of life. It is breath itself. It is choosing to believe each day without needing the circumstances to change. It is choosing to walk without knowing how far. It is choosing to love me even when I am silent. And I, your God, do not forget this. I do not overlook it. I do not dismiss a single tear you have shed in the quiet. Every drop is the deepest worship echoing to my throne. Every step you take on uncharted ground, every time you dare to move forward, while your vision is still veiled in mist, you are doing the very thing hell fears most. You are trusting. You are not waiting for everything to become clear, nor are you waiting until you have enough proof to act. You have chosen to obey me, while every other voice told you not to. You have chosen to believe what I have spoken over what your circumstances have whispered. And right there in the middle of the storm and the fog, your faith has driven its roots deep into the sacred ground. Every time you refuse to surrender to fear and instead quietly whisper, "I don't understand, but I believe," you drive back the forces of darkness. Each time you stop trying to explain everything, stop searching for a safe logic to cling to you, make room for me to step in and act. You may not realize it, but my angels rejoice when you release your grip so that I may take your hand. When you step away from self-condemnation, When you step away from the fear of not being able to control the outcome, you hand the reins back to the one who never errs. That is why even when it seems as though every door has been tightly shut, I open pathways no one could have imagined. You hold no keys, yet the doors swing wide because I am the key. When you think you are not ready, when you feel empty-handed, my provision arrives right on time, never late, never misplaced. Your quiet surrender has become the loudest call that compels heaven to respond. And the most beautiful truth of all is this: you do not need full understanding to walk in my plan. You do not need a detailed map or a clearly marked route. You only need to stand firm in this one assurance, that I will never lead you into destruction, but to the place I have prepared since before the foundation of the world. Know this: my hand will never guide you to the edge of ruin, but will always steer you toward peace and hope. Because of that faith, I have taken the very road you once feared and turned it into a radiant highway of light. It is not a path paved with ease, but one laid down with my own faithfulness and your steadfast trust. Every step you take is not without purpose. Every time you persevere without giving up, even when you do not know where you are going, you are laying another stone in the hallway of glory you will one day walk through. You could not see it clearly at the time, I know. I do not fault you for feeling doubt. I do not condemn you for moments of wavering. But I rejoiced with immeasurable joy when through all those feelings you did not let go of me. When you kept praying even without the stirrings of emotion, when you kept singing praise even with a broken heart, when you remained in my presence even when all you could hear was silence. Do you know this? In those moments that felt futile, I was building what is eternal, not in the blare of trumpets or the grandeur of festivals, but in the quiet of the night. That is where I have forged a spiritual warrior who needs no earthly weapon but carries an anointing no one else can bestow. That is where I have turned your silent tears into powerful weapons against deception. Everyone I use for great glory must walk through a hidden journey. And you have been chosen, not because you are perfect, but because you are willing, not because you are strong, but because you do not hide your weakness from me. And because you have been faithful in the smallest things, I will entrust you with greater ones. The doors opening before you are not merely opportunities but confirmations. They are my way of saying, I see you, I trust you, step in. My child, what lies ahead will not be like what was before. It will not simply be better in emotion or easier in circumstance. It will be greater because it bears my imprint. It carries the breath of heaven. It holds an arrangement that cannot be replicated, cannot be replaced. Every person I bring into your life, every situation I allow to unfold, is piecing together a masterpiece you could never have imagined on your own. The new that is coming does not need to compete with the old, for it comes from an entirely different dimension. It is the reward for faithfulness, the fruit born from a season of sowing and tears, the fulfillment of the holy desires you have kept hidden deep within your heart. And now, as you no longer cling to what I have told you to release, you are truly ready to receive in full all that I have long prepared for you. Nothing from the past has been wasted. Not a single wound has been in vain. All that you once thought were failures have merely been the shedding of burdens so you could walk lighter and move faster. Every dream that was set aside, every prayer that seemed unanswered, has been the very foundation upon which I am building something. Eyes have not seen, ears have not heard, and hearts have never imagined. You are not late. You have missed nothing. You are arriving at precisely the right moment, at the exact time I have appointed to receive what is most fitting for your life. Everything that has passed was simply the journey leading you to this threshold where there is no more doubting, no more wandering and uncertainty, but where you know in your heart it is God Himself who has brought me here by His hand, by His pacer. Mercy, and by his plan that surpasses all understanding. My beloved, you have chosen to place your trust not with a shallow faith that rests only upon your lips, but with a living faith forged in tears, in silence, and in long nights without an answer. You chose to believe me not when all was clear, but in the very moment when darkness surrounded you and no way of escape was visible. I have witnessed it in every moment, when you closed your eyes and still whispered within, "Lord, I do not understand, but I still believe." That choice became the starting point for a shift so significant that even heaven has taken notice. Because you dared to entrust the outcome into my hands, I have begun a heavenly work, not to merely repair the old, but to recreate the new from the very roots. For only when you truly let go can I fully take hold. In that surrender, which may have felt like loss, you have allowed me to enter into every corner you once tried to control with reason and anxiety. You do not need to cry out in loud prayers, nor display a faith that seeks to be seen. Even a whisper is enough to move heaven when it comes from the deepest place of yieldedness. Your silence has spoken more than 1,000 words, and I have listened. I have answered not with thunder or lightning, but with the gentle breezes now beginning to stir in the areas of your life you thought had long withered. Now open the eyes of your spirit and see. The walls that once felt invisible and impenetrable are beginning to crack. Dreams that seemed buried are slowly awakening like seeds beneath moist soil. I am restoring not only what was lost, but also what you never knew I had ordained for you. My restoration is not merely a return, it is an upgrade. Not simply a recovery of the old, but a lifting of you into a new quality, a higher dimension, a fullness of life never before experienced. You once thought that what was taken from your hands was a loss, but now you begin to understand I did not remove to punish, but to clear your hands so that you could receive something greater, something you could never hold while gripping the past so tightly. That surrender, the kind not born from weariness but from choice, has shaken the spiritual realm. And when you surrender, you do not become weak. On the contrary, you are placed in the strongest position possible, the position of one who no longer fights alone but fights under my covering. Do you see it, my child? The field that was once barren is now sprouting green. Relationships once broken are now being given the chance to be mended, not in the way you expected, but in the way I have ordained. The path once clouded is now touched with a faint glimmer of light on the horizon. Every subtle movement, every quiet shift is proof that I am at work even in the silence. I know you have waited a long time. I know there have been moments when you wondered if the waiting was even worth it. But know this, not a single moment of your waiting has been wasted. I do not squander your tears. I do not overlook those times you chose to obey, even when you felt nothing but emptiness. It is precisely in those moments that the soil of your heart became rich ground for the very seed I am about to cause to bloom before your eyes. You are about to step into a season where things that once made no sense will begin to take on clarity. Not because your circumstances suddenly change, but because you have been transformed from within. Your spirit has matured to receive what is new. You no longer plead for what is convenient, but instead desire what is in alignment with the Father's will. This is the kind of maturity that causes heaven to rejoice. You are no longer swayed by delays nor hurried by impatience. You now understand that when I am silent, it is not abandonment. It is because I am working in deeper layers in places your understanding cannot yet reach. And because you have chosen to believe when there was no reason to believe, I am now making the impossible possible, the closed unsealed. Do you realize that the restoration you are beginning to see is the result of a divine partnership, your faith working together with my faithfulness? No one can take this from you. No circumstance can deny this truth. You are now living in a season where promises are no longer just hopes, but are beginning to manifest as reality. Do not let your heart turn back to search for fragments of what is old. Keep walking forward with the conviction that I am doing something new, something no eye has seen, no ear has heard, and no heart has imagined. I am the one who turns ashes into glory. I am the one who makes the desert bloom, and you, my child, are the living proof of that renewing work. So, do not be surprised if wonders begin to unfold naturally. Do not doubt when you see doors open that you did not knock on. Do not fear when you feel yourself being lifted in ways you cannot explain, for this is the reward of surrender. This is the inheritance of those who dared to believe when everyone else stopped. This is the blessing reserved for you, the one who chose to stay when the easiest choice was to walk away. I am restoring what is deepest within you, not only what is outward, but the hope within that once seemed extinguished. I am bringing color back to places that had gone colorless. I am giving back a song to the soul that had gone silent. And as you walk forward in this journey, know that it is not by your own strength, but because I am walking with you, holding you up and preparing for you wonders greater than your dreams. So you keep walking, not because you can clearly see every turn ahead, but because you know the one holding your hand. Every step you take is a silent declaration that faith does not require assurance from circumstances, only a promise from me. And I have promised. I am not a man that I should lie, nor a son of man that I should change my mind. When I say the reward awaits the faithful, it is because I, myself, have prepared it with my own gracious hands. In a generation drawn to noise and blinded by fleeting glory, you have quietly chosen the portion no one else fights for. While others compromise for position, you have chosen to hold to your values in order to guard my presence within you. While the world searches for shortcuts to reach easy destinations, you have chosen the narrow road where I never promised comfort, but I did promise my presence. And it is in that place without applause, in that place where no one knows your name, that you have become the one I know by name. You thought that quiet faithfulness was merely a handful of small acts lost in the vastness of life. But no, my child. It is precisely those small things that have become the solid foundation upon which I will build something great, for no one can step into glory without first passing through the process of refining. No one can wear the crown without having carried the cross. You chose the hard path when the easy one was within reach. You chose purity when temptation called. You chose to wait for me when hurried invitations surrounded your heart. Those choices I have not only remembered but have engraved in the courts of heaven as living evidence that you belong to me. Perhaps you have received no applause, perhaps no spotlight has shone on you, yet heaven has been watching, and what I am preparing to release upon you because of that surrender will be unlike anything you have ever tried to grasp by your own strength. For what comes from me is never merely enough, it always exceeds. It not only compensates but renews entirely. It not only restores but transforms at the root. Think back to the days when you longed to be recognized, to the times you yearned for a single affirmation that what you were living was worth it. But now do you sense something greater than recognition? It is peace. Peace that does not come from circumstances, but from the certainty that I am pleased with you. You have lived in a way that delights me, and to me that is a far greater reward than all the praise the world could offer. So do not hesitate when I lead you into the new. Do not step back when the door is opening before you seem too vast for your current capacity. For what I am preparing is not based on your ability, but on your surrender. You have proven it with every day you chose to keep going, to remain faithful, to belong to me, whether anyone saw it or not. Now the time has come for me to reveal my glory through you. My child, what I will open is not just a door. It is a space, a realm, a portion of the promised land set apart for you. Things that were once shut will now begin to open, not because you knocked harder, but because your faith and surrender have become the key. Connections once broken I will weave back together, not to take you back, but to show that I can use everything, even the fragments, to create something beautiful. You have waited, and now it is time for me to act. You have given, and now it is time for me to fill. You have surrendered, and now it is time for me to empower. Not so that you may become great in the eyes of the world, but so that you may stand as a living testimony to a generation. Whoever is faithful with little will be entrusted with much. Whoever is faithful in the unseen will be lifted into the light. The enemy has tried to make you believe that quiet faithfulness is pointless, that unrecognized sacrifice is a waste. But I have come to shatter that lie. I have come to remind you that not one seed planted in the soil of reverence fails to bear fruit in its season, and your harvest is drawing near. You do not have to compete to hold a place. You do not have to fight to have a voice. I am the one who lifts you up, and when I lift, no one can bring you down. When I open, no power can shut. Keep walking forward, even if your steps still tremble. Keep moving, for ahead lies what is beyond your imagination. What I have prepared for you, no eye has seen, no ear has heard, no heart has conceived. Yet I have conceived it, planned it, and am beginning to reveal it. You are not alone in this journey. I have been with you in the quiet choices, in the moments you said no to what was wrong. When no one was looking in the mornings, you knelt instead of turning away. And now I have come to make the silence resound with blessing, to make your whispered prayers echo with unmistakable answers, to affirm once again not one sacrifice made for me is ever in vain. So, my beloved, keep stepping forward. Walk on in surrender and faithfulness with a heart unmoved. For what I will do in you will astonish even those who once looked down on you, and not because of you, but because I am with you. For you are the one I have seen chosen and marked in the quiet, in the faithful, in the steadfast faith. If these words have touched your heart, click subscribe and turn on the bell to keep walking together in every step of faith, where the Word of God lights the path and His love leads the way each day. The Lord is with you. Amen.